Hey guys, how you doing? It's a good day because I'm pretty sure the Nothing Burgers buns will be toasted. They normally don't release their full hand in a probable cause affidavit, which we saw in Delphi. And if this affidavit is only part of what they have on this guy, wow. I mean, thank God for stupid criminals. Am I right? So we're going to go over all of that today. And I'm going to show you his appearance in court. He was there with his public defender, and the families were there in the front row. And of course, they started breaking down, crying upon hearing the names read of their children, and just simply for the fact that this is the first time that they were seeing the guy accused of murdering their children. So very, very big day. I was going to come on earlier. I was reading through it, and I didn't cry, but my eyes were really red. I was close. I was really close. Because after reading it, I don't know why it would matter, but when you were thinking that maybe they were asleep, somehow it's better than thinking that they were awake. And after reading it, I feel like they were probably awake. And it left me with some questions, but it really put together a lot for me as well. So let's switch over here real quick. And whoa, I'm not having any luck with my green screen today. I'm sure you can hear the doggies in the background. All right. This is not what we want to watch. Go back. There he is. Whoa.
Came face to face with the person in the house.
No.
This is consistent with DM's statement regarding the suspect's path of travel. I throw it back to you, Senator.
So that is where my colleague Joseph, where he talked about that DNA and the carpet and having that small, unless Bryan actually removed the carpet, and then still that might not be enough. That is critical evidence that you cannot clean up, that you cannot remove, and I think that gets us closer. DM may have been saved by the fact that
Hang
you might
on.
not have been running out of time, you might have been out of breath. A
Of course, my
whole lot of
computer
things
is
could have
not
happened that
cooperating with
saved
me.
her and the other roommate that we haven't talked about that was present.
Hearing and see the latest right now, so let's check this out.
All right.
Please be seated. We are on the record in the 2nd Judicial District, Latah County. This is the Magistrates Division of District Court. This is State of Idaho versus Bryan C. Kohberger, cause number CR 29222805. Mr. Kohberger is present in court. He is in custody. He is appearing with his attorney, Ms. Taylor, Mr. Thompson, Ms. Jennings, on behalf of the state. This is the time set in the matter for initial appearance. Mr. Kohberger, I am going to advise you of the rights that you have in this case. I am going to go over the criminal complaint with you, and then we're going to discuss setting the matter for further hearing. You have the following rights. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You have the right to the presumption of innocence. That means the state bears the burden to prove that you are guilty of this offense beyond a reasonable doubt. You have the right to a preliminary hearing. A preliminary hearing is a probable cause hearing. At that hearing, the state must establish that more likely than not, these felony offenses were committed and you were the one that committed the felony offenses. You have a right to have that hearing within 14 days if you remain in custody. If you are bound over at that preliminary hearing to district court, if the court finds probable cause, you would be bound over to district court. And at that time, you can enter a plea of not guilty, and you can have a jury trial set within 6 months of your appearance in district court. At both your preliminary hearing and your jury trial, you have the right to confront and question any evidence or witnesses called against you. Call witnesses on your own behalf and compel witnesses to be present and testify at the state's expense. You have the right to be represented by a lawyer. If you cannot afford one, one could be appointed to represent you based upon your financial need. You also have the right to appeal any conviction in your case. Do you understand these rights?
Yes.
I am now going to go over the criminal complaint with you. Count 1 of the criminal complaint charges you with the felony offense of burglary. It alleges that the defendant, Bryan C. Kohberger, on or about November 13th of 2022 in Latah County, State of Idaho, did unlawfully enter a residence located at 1122 King Road, Moscow, with the intent to commit the felony crime of murder in violation of Idaho Code 18-1401 and 1403. The maximum penalty for that offense, if you plead guilty or are found guilty, is not less than 1 year in prison, no more than 10 years in prison, and or a $50,000 fine or both. Do you understand?
Yes.
Count 2 alleges that you committed the felony offense of murder in the first degree. It alleges that the defendant, Bryan C. Kohberger, on or about November 13th, 2022, in Latah County, State of Idaho, did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation, and with malice aforethought, kill and murder Madison Mogan, a human being, by stabbing Madison Mogan, from which she died, in violation of Idaho Code 18-4001, 4002, 4003, and 4004. The maximum penalty for this offense, if you were to plead guilty or be found guilty, is death or imprisonment for life. Do you understand?
Yes.
Count 3 alleges that you committed the felony offense of murder in the first degree. It alleges that the defendant, Bryan C. Kohberger, on or about November 13th of 2022 in Latah County, State of Idaho, did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation, and with malice aforethought, kill and murder Kaylee Gonsalves, a human being, by stabbing Kaylee Gonsalves, from which she died, in violation of Idaho Code 18-4001, 4002, 4003, 4004. Again, the maximum penalty for that offense, if you plead guilty or are found guilty, is death and/or imprisonment for life. Do you understand?
Yes.
Count 4 alleges that you committed the felony offense of murder in the first degree. It alleges that the defendant, Bryan C. Kohberger, on or about November 13th of 2022 in Latah County, Idaho, did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation, and with malice aforethought, kill and murder Xana Kernodle, a human being, by stabbing Xana Kernodle, from which she died, in violation of Idaho Code 18-4001, 4002, 4003, and 4004. Again, the maximum penalty for that offense, if you plead guilty or are found guilty, is up to death and/or imprisonment for life. Do you understand?
Yes.
Count 5 alleges that you committed the felony offense of murder in the first degree. It alleges that the defendant, Bryan C. Kohberger, on or about November 13th of 2022 in Latah County, state of Idaho, did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation, and with malice aforethought, kill and murder Ethan Chapin, a human being, by stabbing Ethan Chapin, from which he died, in violation of Idaho Codes 18-4001, 4002, 4003, and 4004. And again, the maximum penalty for this offense, if you plead guilty or are found guilty, is up to death and imprisonment for life. Do you understand?
Yes.
And Mr. Kohberger, would you like to represent yourself, hire a lawyer, or see if you qualify for court-appointed counsel?
I have court-appointed counsel.
Court has reviewed your application for attorney at public expense. I do find that you are indigent and do qualify for court-appointed counsel. I will appoint Ms. Taylor to represent you in this case. Ms. Taylor, have you had an opportunity to speak with Mr. Kohberger about speedy preliminary hearing and setting this matter?
Your Honor, I have. We would ask the court to set the status hearing in a week or two to make a final determination.
Okay. And Mr. Thompson, Ms. Jennings are in agreement with that?
That's fine with the state, Your Honor.
I will go ahead and set this matter for a status hearing then on the calendar on January 12th at 10 o'clock a.m. We will make sure notice is sent, and then Ms. Taylor, do you wish to argue bail at this time?
Your Honor, I would like to ask the court to consider setting a bond. Mr. Kohberger right now is on a no bond hold, but it's a limited request as I don't have enough information. We are new to the case. We haven't reviewed very much in the way of information about the case, and we have just done our own work on the case. But we would want the court to know that Mr. Kohberger has a good family that stands behind him.
And Mr. Thompson.
The state's position is that Mr. Kohberger is not entitled to bond in this case. We can take charges as is noted on the arrest warrant itself. Idaho Code 19-816, 19-2903 both specify that given the potential penalties in this case, there's no right to bail. The defendant was arrested 3,000 miles away across the country. Where his family is, we ask that he remain in custody. No bail.
At this point in time, pursuant to Idaho Criminal Rule 46B and Idaho Code 19-816 and 2903, I am going to leave the bail set of this case as no bail at this point in time until I have additional or further information at a later date and time. So with that, then Mr. Kohberger, you will be remanded in custody and remain in custody on the no bail pending further proceedings in this matter. Is there anything further in the case then for today, Mr. Thompson?
Commissioner, the state is asking for no contact orders for various family members of the deceased and also for the surviving roommates. I've spoken briefly with Ms. Taylor. She indicated there's no objection.
Ms. Taylor, is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
So I will go ahead and issue those no contact orders. So I do have a no contact order then for the named individual of Dylan Mortensen, Bethany Funk, as well as the family members and Mr. Chapin, the family members of Ms. Kernodle, excuse me, yes, Mr. and Ms. Laramie, Mr. Mogan, Ms. Cheeley, and then a number of members of the Gonsalves family. Those specific names will certainly be provided to you, Mr. Kohberger, by way of being provided notice of these documents. You'll get a copy of these no contact orders. What you do need to be advised of and what will be in this no contact order is you are prohibited from having any contact with them whatsoever. You cannot contact them through third person in writing or by any electronic means. You cannot Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, use the phone to communicate with them or otherwise any form of communication in direct or indirectly with them. You cannot engage in any conduct that would harass, stalk, threaten, use, attempt to use, or threaten to use any physical force or violence upon them or place them in reasonable fear of bodily injury. You cannot go within or knowingly remain within 300 feet of their person or their home, workplace, or any other place where they might be. There are no exceptions to these orders, and if you do violate these orders, it is a new misdemeanor offense. It is punishable by up to a year in jail and or a $1,000 fine or both. At this point in time, due to being in the magistrate's division here, at this juncture, I am going to issue the no contact orders for a period of 2 years, and then if it needs to be modified or changed by additional judge, it can be done so at that time. Is there anything further, Mr. Thompson?
No, Your Honor.
Anything further, Ms. Taylor?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. We are adjourned.
Okay, so that's that. Yeah, I can't believe, I mean, I guess it's just standard operating procedure to ask for bail, but there's no way this guy was getting bail. No way. Definite flight risk. Yeah, my heart is really heavy and with the families today after having to face this guy for the first time and just knowing what they're going to hear down the road. It's just, what a nightmare. But I'm so glad that they got this guy. All right, let me see if I can get this to work for me. If my computer will continue to cooperate. The right one. Yeah. All right. So let's just go through this awful probable cause. So this is Exhibit A, statement of Brett Payne. The below information is provided by Brett Payne, who is a duly appointed, qualified, and acting peace officer within the county of Latah, state of Idaho. Brett Payne is employed by Moscow Police Department in the official capacity or position of corporal, and has been a trained and qualified peace officer for approximately 4 years. Corporal Payne is being assisted by members of the Idaho State Police and agents of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Hang on. On November 13th, 2022, at approximately 4 p.m., Moscow Police Department Sergeant Blaker and I responded to 1122 King Road, Moscow, Idaho, hereafter the King Road residence, to assist with scene security and processing of a crime scene associated with 4 homicides. Upon our arrival, the Idaho State Police forensic team was on scene and was preparing to begin processing the scene. MPD Officer Smith, one of the initial responding officers to the incident, advised he would walk me through the scene. Officer Smith and I entered the King Road residence through the bottom floor door on the north side of the building. Officer Smith and I then walked upstairs to the second floor. Officer Smith directed me down the hallway to the west bedroom on the second floor, which I later learned through Xana's driver's license and other personal belongings found in the room was Xana Kernodle's, hereafter Kernodle room. Just before this room, there was a bathroom door on the south wall of the hallway. As I approached the room, I could see a body, later identified as Kernodle's, laying on the floor. Kernodle was deceased with wounds which appeared to have been caused by an edged weapon. Also in the room was a male, later identified as Ethan Chapin, hereafter Chapin. Chapin was also deceased with wounds later determined. Autopsy report provided by Spokane. I don't know why they left page 2 blank. County Medical Examiner, dated December 15th, 2022, to be caused by sharp force injuries. I then followed Officer Smith upstairs to the third floor of the residence. The third floor consisted of 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. The bedroom on the west side of the floor was later determined to be Kaylee Gonsalves, hereafter Gonsalves' room. I later learned from review of Officer Nunez's body camera there was a dog in the room when Moscow police officers initially responded. The dog belonged to Gonsalves and her ex-boyfriend, Jack Decor. I found out from my interview with Jack Decor on November 13th, 2022, that he and Gonsalves shared the dog. Officer Smith then pointed out a small bathroom on the east side of the third floor. This bathroom shared a wall with Madison Mogan, hereafter Mogan, bedroom, which was situated on the southeast corner of the third floor. As I entered this bedroom, I could see 2 females in the single bed in the room. Both Gonsalves and Mogan were deceased with visible stab wounds. I also later noticed what appeared to be a tan leather knife sheath laying on the bed next to Mogan's right side when viewed from the door. The sheath was later processed and had K-bar, USMC, and the United States Marine Corps Eagle Globe and anchor insignia stamped on the outside of it. The Idaho State Lab later located a single source of male DNA suspect profile left on the bottom snap of the knife sheath. Okay, so this is where he screwed up. One of many places that he screwed up. My thinking was, now I know because I talked to my husband and he's like, well, a lot of times, you can snap them on your belt or whatever, but why take the chance, right? This guy is supposed to be so smart. Why take the knife in the sheath into the house? Why not take the knife out of the sheath before you go in the house and leave it in the car? But whatever. I guess it's a good thing he did take it because he forgot it and they got his DNA off of it. Okay. As part of the investigation, numerous interviews were conducted by Moscow Police Department officers, Idaho State Police detectives, and FBI agents. 2 of the interviews included BF and DM. Both BF and DM were inside the King Road residence at the time of the homicides and were roommates to victims. BF's bedroom was located on the east side of the first floor of the King Road residence. Based on numerous interviews conducted by MPD officers, ISP detectives, and FBI agents, as well as my review of evidence, I have learned the following. All right, here we go. On the evening of November 12th, 2022, Chapin and Kernodle are seen by BF at the Sigma Chi house on the University of Idaho campus at 735 Nez Pierce Drive from approximately 9 p.m. on November 12th to 1:45 a.m. on November 13th. BF also estimated that at approximately 1:45 a.m., Chapin and Kernodle returned to the King Road residence. BF also stated that Chapin did not live in the King Road residence, but was a guest of Kernodle. Gonsalves and Mogan were at a local bar, the Corner Club, at 202 North Main Street in Moscow. Gonsalves and Mogan can be seen on video footage provided by the Corner Club between 10 p.m. on November 12th and 1:30 a.m. on November 13th. At approximately 1:30 a.m., Gonsalves and Mogan can be seen on video at a local food vendor called the Grub Truck at 318 South Main Street in downtown Moscow. The Grub Truck live streams video from their food truck on the streaming platform Twitch, which is available for public viewing on their website. This video was captured by law enforcement, which I thought Kaylee's sister was the one that found it, but it doesn't really matter. Just the fact they have it is good. A private party reported that he provided a ride to Gonsalves and Mogan at approximately 1:56 a.m. from downtown Moscow in front of the Grub Truck to the King Road residence. DM and BF both made statements during interviews that indicated the occupants of the King Road residence were home by 2 a.m. and asleep or at least in their rooms by approximately 4 a.m. This is with the exception of Kernodle, who received a DoorDash order at the residence at approximately 4 a.m. Law enforcement identified the DoorDash delivery driver who reported this information. So that tells us that it's later than what we thought, because they've always kind of said between 3 and 4 was when this happened, but now we know it was after that. DM stated she originally went to sleep in her bedroom on the southeast side of the second floor, which is something that we had kind of wondered about, right? Because they had that empty room on the main level, the second floor, and we all kind of thought that Bethany and Dylan were in the basement level, the first floor, but she was actually on the second floor, the same as Xana, just in that room that would be closest to the kitchen area. So DM stated she originally went to sleep in her bedroom on the southeast side of the second floor. DM stated she was awoken at approximately 4 a.m. by what she stated sounded like Gonsalves playing with her dog in one of the upstairs bedrooms, which were located on the third floor. A short time later, DM said she heard who she thought was Gonsalves say something to the effect of, "There's someone here." A review of records obtained from a forensic download of Kernodle's phone showed this could have also been Kernodle, as her cellular phone indicated she was likely awake and using the TikTok app at approximately 4:12 a.m. DM stated she looked out of her bedroom but did not see anything when she heard the comment about someone being in the house. DM stated that she opened her door a second time when she heard what she thought was crying coming from Kernodle's room. DM then said she heard a male voice say something to the effect of, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." At approximately 4:17 a.m., a security camera located at 1112 King Road, a residence immediately to the northwest of 1122 King Road, picked up distorted audio of what sounded like voices or a whimper followed by a loud thud. Whew. A dog can also be heard barking numerous times, starting at 4:17 a.m. The security camera is less than 50 feet from the west wall of Kernodle's bedroom. Man. DM stated she opened her door for a third time after she heard the crying and saw a figure, clad in black clothing and a mask that covered the person's mouth and nose, walking towards her. DM described the figure as 5'10" or taller, male, not very muscular, but athletically built with bushy eyebrows. The male walked past DM as she stood in a frozen shock phase. The male walked towards the black sliding glass door. DM locked herself in her room after seeing the male. DM did not state that she recognized the male. This leads investigators to believe that the murderer left the scene. Okay, so here's questions. So, she locked herself in her room, but she didn't call 911. And I'd kind of like to know why. I mean, I get you're terrified, right? But at some point between 4 a.m. and noon when 911 was called, she didn't calm down enough to call 911? I don't understand that. And she's standing in the doorway and she sees him and can describe like his bushy eyebrows and things like that. Did he see her? And if so, why did he just walk by? I mean, that really makes this sound targeted, which I'm assuming is why all along police were like, this was targeted. Everyone doesn't need to worry. This was targeted because he walked right by Dylan and she's fine. So that kind of was shocking to me. Let's see. The combination of DM's statements to law enforcement, reviews of forensic downloads of records from BF and DM's phone, and video of a suspect video as described below leads investigators to believe the homicides occurred between 4 a.m. and 4:25 a.m. During the processing of the crime scene, investigators found a latent shoe print. This was located during the second processing of the crime scene by the ISP forensic team by first using a presumptive blood test and then amino black, a protein stain that detects the presence of cellular material. The detected shoe print showed a diamond-shaped pattern similar to the pattern of a Vans-type shoe sole just outside the door of DM's bedroom, located on the second floor. This is consistent with DM's statement regarding the suspect's path of travel. And when I read that, my kids love Vans, right? And my daughter has a pair of slip-on Vans. And I'm wondering if he was wearing the slip-on kind and just slipped them off as he walked out, not to leave bloody footprints outside. Just something that kind of came to my mind. As part of the investigation, an extensive search commonly referred to in law enforcement as a video canvass was conducted in the area of the King Road residence. This video canvass was to obtain any footage from the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022 in the area of the King Road residence and surrounding neighborhoods in an effort to locate the suspect or suspects' vehicles traveling to or leaving from the King Road residence. This video canvass resulted in the collection of numerous surveillance videos in the area from both residential and business addresses. I have reviewed numerous videos that were collected and have had conversations with other MPD officers, ISP detectives, and FBI agents that are similarly reviewing footage that was obtained. So, I think they have had an idea all along. I think they knew about the car probably right away, and they needed the DNA to tie it to him. A review of camera footage indicated that a white sedan, hereafter suspect vehicle 1, was observed traveling westbound in the 700 block of Indian Hills Drive in Moscow at approximately 3:26 a.m. and westbound on Steiner Avenue at Idaho State 95 in Moscow at approximately 3:28 a.m. On this video, it appeared suspect vehicle 1 was not displaying a front license plate. And I don't know if any of you know, is Pennsylvania, do they have 2 plates or just 1? Because we only have 1 here. So that may be why there wasn't a plate on the front. A review of footage from multiple videos obtained from the King Road neighborhood showed multiple sightings of suspect vehicle 1 starting at 3:29 a.m. and ending at 4:20 a.m. These sightings show suspect vehicle 1 makes an initial 3 passes by the 1122 King Road residence and then leave via Walenta Drive. Based off my experience as a patrol officer, this is a residential neighborhood with a very limited number of vehicles that travel in the area during the early morning hours. Upon review of the video, there are only a few cars that enter and exit the area during this time. Now, I don't know if you remember, I showed in one of my earlier videos when Brian Enton had gone and he drove like possible ways that the person could have left if they had driven or if they had walked, and Walenta Drive was part of it, so they were right on with that. Suspect vehicle 1 can be seen entering the area a 4th time at approximately 4:04 a.m. It can be seen driving eastbound on King Road, stopping and turning around in front of 500 Queen Road number 52, and then driving back westbound on King Road. When suspect vehicle 1 is in front of the King Road residence, it appeared to unsuccessfully attempt to park or turn around in the road. The vehicle then continued to the intersection of Queen Road and King Road, where it can be seen completing a 3-point turn and then driving eastbound again down Queen Road. Now, I'm wondering if that is the tire tracks that we saw them examining early on when they were out there taking pictures and measuring and all of that. I wonder if that, where it unsuccessfully attempted to park or turn around and did the 3-point turn, if maybe that was what some of those tracks were. And it sounds like he was stalking this house all night long, which is just disgusting and scary. Suspect vehicle 1 is next seen departing the area of the King Road residence at approximately 4:20 a.m. at a high rate of speed. Suspect vehicle 1 is next observed traveling southbound on Walenta Drive. Based on my knowledge of the area and review of camera footage in the neighborhood, that does not show suspect vehicle 1 during that time frame. I believe that suspect vehicle 1 likely exited the neighborhood at Palouse River Drive and Conestoga Drive. Palouse River Drive is at the southern edge of Moscow and proceeds into Whitman County, Washington. Eventually, the road leads to Pullman, Washington. Imagine that. Pullman, Washington is approximately 10 miles from Moscow, Idaho. Both Pullman and Moscow are small college towns, and people commonly travel back and forth between them. And where does Nothing Burger just happen to be getting his PhD? Law enforcement officers provided video footage of suspect vehicle 1 to forensic examiners with the Federal Bureau of Investigation that regularly utilize surveillance footage to identify the year, make, and model of an unknown vehicle that is observed by one or more cameras during the commission of a criminal offense. The forensic examiner has approximately 35 years law enforcement experience with 12 years at the FBI. His specific training includes identifying unique characteristics of vehicles, and he uses a database that gives visual clues of vehicles across states to identify differences between vehicles. After reviewing the numerous observations of suspect vehicle 1, The forensic examiner initially believed that suspect vehicle 1 was a 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra. Upon further review, he indicated it could also be a 2011 to 2016 Hyundai Elantra. And in case you've forgotten, Nothingburger drives a 2015 Hyundai Elantra. As a result, investigators have been reviewing information on persons in possession of a vehicle that is a 2011 to 2016 white Hyundai Elantra. Now, why I think they knew more is because here it says they are reviewing information on 2011 to 2016 Hyundai Elantras. But to the public, we only ever heard that they were looking for a 2011 to a 2013 Hyundai Elantra. So I found that interesting. Investigators were given access to video footage on the Washington State University campus located in Pullman, Washington. A review of that video indicated that at approximately 2:44 a.m. on November 13, 2022, a white sedan, which was consistent with the description of the white Elantra, known as Suspect Vehicle 1, was observed on WSU surveillance cameras traveling north on Southeast Nevada Street at Northeast Stadium Way. At approximately 2:53 a.m., a white sedan, which is consistent with the description of the white Elantra known as Suspect Vehicle 1, was observed traveling southeast on Nevada Street in Pullman towards SR 270. SR 270 connects Pullman, Washington to Moscow, Idaho. This camera footage from Pullman, Washington was provided to the same FBI forensic examiner. The forensic examiner identified the vehicle observed in Pullman, Washington as being a 2014 to 2016 Hyundai Elantra. At approximately 5:25 a.m., a white sedan, which was consistent with the description of Suspect Vehicle 1, was observed on 5 cameras in Pullman, Washington, and on WSU campus cameras. The first camera that recorded the white sedan was located at 1300 Johnson Road in Pullman. The white sedan was observed traveling northbound on Johnson Road. Johnson Road leads directly back to West Palouse River Drive in Moscow, which intersects with Conestoga Drive. The white sedan was then observed turning north on Bishop Boulevard and northwest on SR 270. At approximately 5:27 a.m., the white Elantra was observed on cameras traveling northbound on Stadium Way at Nevada Street, Stadium Way at Grimes Way, Stadium Drive at Wilson Road, and Stadium Way at Cougar Way. Depiction showing Moscow and Pullman. It's kind of hard to see in the picture, but it's just kind of like a overview, I guess. And it says depiction showing white Elantra's path of travel not to scale. And then the legend is over here. The white Elantra, they have it as like the little triangle, like a yellowish, greenish triangle. White Elantra seen returning to WSU campus is kind of a fuchsia looking triangle. And 1630 Northeast Valley Road is that rectangle at the top. It says arrows are camera locations and indicate vehicle direction of travel. So they had him tracked for quite a while. Okay. On November 25th, 2022, MPD asked area law enforcement agencies to be on the lookout for a white Hyundai Elantra in the area. On November 29th, 2022, at approximately 12:28 a.m., WSU police officer Daniel Tiengo, I hope I pronounced that right, queried white Elantras registered at WSU. As a result of that query, he located a 2015 white Elantra with a Pennsylvania license plate LFZ 8649. This vehicle was registered to Bryan Kohberger, hereafter Kohberger, residing at 1630 Northeast Valley Road, apartment 201, Pullman, Washington. 1630 Northeast Valley Road is approximately 3/4 of a mile from the intersection of Stadium Way and Cougar Way, the last camera location that picked up the white Elantra. The same day, at approximately 12:58 a.m., WSU officer Curtis Whitman, was looking for white Hyundai Elantras and located a 2015 white Hyundai Elantra at 1630 Northeast Valley Road in Pullman in the parking lot. 1630 Northeast Valley Road is an apartment complex that houses WSU students. Officer Whitman also ran the car and it returned to Kohberger with a Washington tag. I reviewed Kohberger's Washington State driver's license information and photograph. This license indicates that Kohberger is a white male with a height of 6 feet tall and weighs 185 pounds. Additionally, the photograph of Kohberger shows that he has bushy eyebrows. And he does, y'all. I laughed, but there's some pictures of him. It looks like he's got caterpillars over his eyes. So her description was right on. Kohberger's physical description is consistent with the description of the male DM saw inside her King Road residence on November 13th. Further investigation, including a review of Latah County Sheriff's Deputy Corporal Duke's body cam and reports showed that on August 21st, 2022, Bryan Kohberger was detained as part of a traffic stop that occurred in Moscow, Idaho by Corporal Duke. At the time, Kohberger, who was the sole occupant, was driving a white 2015 Hyundai Elantra with Pennsylvania plate LFZ 8649, which was set to expire on November 30th, 2022. During the stop, which was recorded via a law enforcement body camera, Kohberger provided his phone number as redacted 8458, hereafter the 8458 phone, as his cellular telephone number. Investigators conducted electronic database queries and learned that the 8458 phone is a number issued by AT&T. On October 14th, 2022, Bryan Kohberger was detained as part of a traffic stop by a WSU police officer. Upon review of the body cam and report of the stop, Kohberger was the sole occupant and was driving a white 2015 Hyundai Elantra with Pennsylvania plate LFZ 8649. On November 18th, 2022, according to Washington State Licensing, Kohberger registered the 2015 white Elantra with Washington and later received Washington plate CFB 8708. Prior to this time, the 2015 Elantra was registered in Pennsylvania, which does not require a front license plate to be displayed. This was learned through communications with a Pennsylvania officer who is currently certified in the state of Pennsylvania. Based on my own experience and communication with Washington law enforcement, I know that Idaho and Washington require front and back license plates to be displayed. So, there you go. Investigators believe that Kohberger is still driving the 2015 white Hyundai Elantra because his vehicle was captured on December 13th, 2022 by a license plate reader in Loma, Colorado, information provided by a query to a database. Kohberger's Elantra was then queried on December 15th, 2022 by law enforcement in Hancock County, Indiana. On December 16th, 2022, at approximately 2:26 p.m., surveillance video showed Kohberger's Elantra in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. The sole occupant of the vehicle was a white male whose description was consistent with Kohberger. Kohberger has family in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, learned through a TLO search and locate tool database query. Based on information provided on the WSU website, Kohberger is currently a PhD student in criminology at Washington State University. Pursuant to records provided by a member of the interview panel for Pullman Police Department, we learned that Kohberger's past education included undergraduate degrees in psychology and cloud-based forensics. These records also showed Kohberger wrote an essay when he applied for an internship with the Pullman Police Department in the fall of 2022. This guy is like textbook of these other serial killers that wanted to be a cop or wanted to be a lawyer or hung out with the police, I swear. Kohberger wrote in his essay he had interest in assisting rural law enforcement agencies with how to better collect and analyze technological data in public safety operations. Kohberger also posted a Reddit survey that we have already read, which can be found by an open source internet search. The survey asked for participants to provide information to understand how emotions and psychological traits influence decision making when committing a crime. As part of this investigation, law enforcement obtained search warrants to determine cellular devices that utilize cellular towers in close proximity to the King Road residence on November 13th, 2022, between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. After determining that Kohberger was associated to both the 2015 white Elantra and the 8458 phone, investigators reviewed these search warrant returns. A query of the 8458 phone in these returns did not show the 8458 phone utilizing cellular tower resources in close proximity to the King Road residence between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. So the dipshit either was smart enough not to bring his phone or he turned it off. So he got one thing right. Based on my training, experience, and conversations with law enforcement officers that specialize in the utilization of cellular telephone records as part of investigations, individuals can either leave their cellular telephone at a different location before committing a crime or turn their cellular telephone off prior to going to a location to commit a crime. This is done by subjects in an effort to avoid alerting law enforcement that a cellular device associated with them was in a particular area where a crime is committed. I also know that on numerous occasions, subjects will surveil an area where they intend to commit a crime prior to the date of the crime. Depending on the circumstances, this could be done a few days before or for several months prior to the commission of a crime. During these types of surveillance, it is possible that an individual would not leave their cellular telephone at a separate location or turn it off since they do not plan to commit the offense on that particular day. So, everybody that doubted the police on this case, they all just need to take it back right now because they are on it. They were on it all along. On December 23rd, 2022, I applied for and was granted a search warrant for historical phone records between November 12th, 2022 at 12 a.m. and November 14th at 12 a.m. for the 8458 phone held by the phone provider AT&T approximately 24 hours preceding and following the times of the homicides. On December 23rd, 2022, pursuant to that search warrant, I received records for the 8458 phone from AT&T. These records indicated that the 8458 phone is subscribed to Bryan Kohberger at an address in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, and the account has been open since January 23rd, 2022. These records also included historical cell site location information, CSLI, for the 8458 phone. After receiving this information, I consulted with an FBI Special Agent, SA, that is certified as a member of the Cellular Analysis Survey Team, CAST. Members of CAST are certified with the FBI to provide expert testimony in the field of historical CSLI and are required to pass extensive training that includes both written and practical examinations prior to being certified with CAST, as well as the completion of yearly certification requirements. Additionally, the FBI CAST SA that I consulted with has over 15 years of federal law enforcement experience, which includes 6 years with the FBI. From information provided by CAST, I was able to determine estimated locations for the 8458 phone from November 12th, 2022 to November 13th, 2022, the time period authorized by the court. On November 13th, 2022, at approximately 2:42 a.m., the 8458 phone was utilizing cellular resources that provide coverage to 1630 Northeast Valley Road, apartment G201, Pullman, Washington, hereafter the Kohberger residence. At approximately 2:47 a.m., the 8458 phone utilized cellular resources that provide coverage southeast of the Kohberger residence, consistent with the 8458 phone leaving the Kohberger residence and traveling south through Pullman, Washington. This is consistent with the movement of the white Elantra. At approximately 2:47 a.m., the 8458 phone stops reporting to the network, which is consistent with either the phone being in an area without cellular coverage, the connection to the network is disabled, such as putting the phone in airplane mode, or that the phone is turned off. The 8458 phone does not report to the network again until approximately 4:48 a.m., at which time it utilized cellular resources that provide coverage to Idaho State Highway 95, south of Moscow, Idaho, near Blaine, Idaho, north of Genesee. Between 4:50 a.m. and 5:26 a.m., the phone utilizes cellular resources that are consistent with the 8458 phone traveling south on Idaho State Highway 95 to Genesee, Idaho, then traveling west towards Uniontown, Idaho, and then north back into Pullman, Washington. At approximately 5:30 a.m., the 8458 phone is utilizing resources that provide coverage to Pullman, Washington, and consistent with the phone traveling back to the Kohberger residence. The 8458 phone's movements are consistent with the movements of the white Elantra that is observed traveling north on Stadium Drive at approximately 5:27 a.m. Based on a review of the 8458 phone's estimated locations and travel, the 8458 phone's travel is consistent with that of the white Elantra. Further review indicated that the 8458 phone utilized cellular resources on November 13th, 2022 that are consistent with the 8458 phone leaving the area of the Kohberger residence at approximately 9 a.m. and traveling to Moscow, Idaho. Specifically, the 8458 phone utilized cellular resources that would provide coverage to the King Road residence between 9:12 a.m. and 9:21 a.m. The 8458 phone next utilized cellular resources that are consistent with the 8458 phone traveling back to the area of the Kohberger residence and arriving to the area at approximately 9:32 a.m. So he went back. He went back at 9:12 a.m. And it kind of makes me wonder, we heard the front door was wide open. Did he go back because he realized he forgot the sheath and try to run in and see if he could find it real quick and then run out the front door? I don't know. But he went back, which again is another common trait of these killers. They like to revisit the scene. Below is a depiction, not to scale, of the possible route taken based off the cellular site locations. So there's where he drove. Seems like kind of a long, windy way to do it, but maybe not. Investigators found that the 8458 phone did connect to a cell phone tower that provides service to Moscow on November 14th, 2022, but investigators do not believe the 8458 phone was in Moscow on that date. The 8458 phone has not connected to any towers that provide service to Moscow since that date. Based on my training, experience, and the facts of the investigation thus far, I believe that Kohberger, the user of the 8458 phone, was likely the driver of the white Elantra that is observed departing Pullman, Washington, and that this vehicle is likely suspect vehicle 1. Additionally, the route of travel of the 8458 phone during the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022, and the lack of the 8458 phone reporting to AT&T between 2:47 a.m. and 4:48 a.m. is consistent with Kohberger attempting to conceal his location during the quadruple homicide that occurred at the King Road residence. Okay, on December 23rd, 2022, I was granted a search warrant for Kohberger's historical CSLI from June 23rd, 2022 to current. Prospective location information and a PIN register trap and trace on the 8458 phone to aid in efforts to determine if Kohberger stalked any of the victims in this case prior to the offense, conducted surveillance on the King Road residence, was in contact with any of the victims' associates before or after the alleged offense, any locations that may contain evidence of the murders that occurred on November 13th, 2022, the location of the white Elantra registered to Kohberger, as well as the location of Kohberger. On December 23rd, 2022, pursuant to that search warrant, I received historical records for the 8458 phone from AT&T from the time the account was opened in June of 2022. After consulting with CAST SA, I was able to determine estimated locations for the 8458 phone from June 2022 to present, the time period authorized by the court. The records for the 8458 phone show the 8458 phone utilizing cellular resources that provide coverage to the area of 1122 King Road on at least 12 occasions prior to November 13th, 2022. All of these occasions, except for one, occurred in the late evening and early morning hours of their respective days. One of these occasions, on August 21st, 2022, the 8458 phone utilized cellular resources providing coverage to the King Road residents from approximately 10:34 p.m. to 11:35 p.m. At approximately 11:37 p.m., Kohberger was stopped by the Latah County Sheriff's Department Corporal Duke, as mentioned above. The 8548 phone was utilizing cellular resources consistent with the location of the traffic stop during this time, Farm Road and Pullman Highway. Further analysis of the cellular data provided showed the 8458 phone utilized cellular resources on November 13th, 2022, consistent with the phone traveling from Pullman, Washington to Lewiston, Idaho, via U.S. Highway 195. At approximately 12:36 p.m., the 8458 phone utilized cellular resources that would provide coverage to Kate's Cup of Joe coffee stand located at 810 Port Drive, Clarkston, Washington. Surveillance footage from the U.S. Chef's store located at 820 Port Drive, Clarkston, Washington, and adjacent to Kate's Cup of Joe showed a white Elantra consistent with suspect vehicle 1 drive past Kate's Cup of Joe at a time consistent with the cellular data from the 8548 phone. At approximately 12:46 p.m., the 8458 phone then utilized cellular data in the area of the Albertsons grocery store at 400 Bridge Street in Clarkston, Washington. Surveillance footage obtained from the Albertsons showed Kohberger exit the white Elantra consistent with suspect vehicle 1 at approximately 12:49 p.m. Interior surveillance cameras show Kohberger walk through the store, purchase unknown items at the checkout, and leave at approximately 1:04. Kohberger's possible path of travel depicted below, not to scale. Sorry, my throat's dry. Additional analysis of records for the 8458 phone indicated that between approximately 5:32 p.m. and 5:36 p.m., the 8458 phone utilized cellular resources that provide coverage to Johnson, Idaho. The 8458 phone then stops reporting to the network from approximately 5:36 p.m. to 8:30 a.m. or p.m. Sorry. That is consistent with the 8458 phone being in the area that the 8458 phone traveled the hours immediately following the suspected time the homicides occurred. On December 27th, 2022, Pennsylvania agents recovered the trash from the Kohberger family residence located in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. That evidence was sent to the Idaho State Lab for testing. On December 28th, 2022, the Idaho State Lab reported that a DNA profile obtained from the trash and the DNA profile obtained from the sheath identified a male as not being excluded as the biological father of suspect profile. At least 99.9998% of the male population would be expected to be excluded from the possibility of being the suspect's biological father. And he's the only son. They've got 2 daughters, and he's the only son. Based on the above information, I'm requesting an arrest warrant be issued for Bryan C. Kohberger, date of birth 11/21/1994, for burglary at 1122 King Street in Moscow, Idaho, and 4 counts of murder in the first degree for the murders of Madison Mogan, Kaylee Gonsalves, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. I declare under penalty of perjury pursuant to the law of the state of Idaho that the foregoing is true and correct, dated December 29th, 2022, and signed by the affiant. So yeah, it's a lot, guys. It's a lot. So let me go through the chat. I wasn't really looking at chat while I was reading, so let me go through here. Yeah, allegedly. I know you can't get cut on snapping it. I just don't understand why he took the chance of bringing the sheath into the home with him rather than just taking the knife. Yeah, Steph, I know we've been talking about it all day, right? Why she didn't call 911. It's very, very bizarre. You know that I hadn't thought about that, but I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right. Civil X. Based on timeline, in my opinion, BK sees the DoorDash order as the moment to strike and draw attention to the DoorDasher. He was waiting. He was outside waiting, decided that was the moment. You know, he could have done that, like gone up, and you would think maybe the DoorDash guy forgot something, right? So you would... God, I hope they didn't let him in. Something really off. Yeah, she called her friends before she called the police. I don't know. I don't understand that, but God, the survivor's guilt for those 2 roommates has got to be awful. All right. So, yeah. Sorry, I just need a minute to kind of regroup. It's a lot. Oh, God, it's a lot. I mean, he turned off his phone. If he's caught on camera, like, everywhere. He goes back, doesn't turn the phone off, I guess, and leaves the sheath behind. And like I said, you know, normally probable cause is just like you give the bare minimum that you need to give to say, like, this is our guy and we're going to arrest him. Like the Delphi affidavit didn't give a lot of information. There's quite a bit packed in this one. You know, it's 19 pages long. There's a lot there. And it makes me wonder, like, what else do they have? Because you know they've got more. They didn't just lay their whole case out right there. But I think it's safe to say that they have this guy dead to rights. I mean, they have put in the work, and, you know, they've got the receipts, basically. They've got this guy. I don't know how he's going to try to defend himself on this one. I really don't. Because initially I was like, okay, if his DNA is there, is he going to be able to say, like, oh, I've been in the house before or whatever? But, you know, I mean, if the sheath hadn't been found, like, right by her dead body, you know, he probably could have said, oh, well, I was over there and I had my knife and I forgot the sheath. But why would it be on the bed with her? It's not like she found the sheath and decided to take it to bed with her. You know what I mean? So there's no explaining that away. And then the footprint, I'm sure they have the size. He probably kept the shoes, because we can see now that he's not that bright. Man. I wonder through all the tracking if they have an idea of where the damn knife could be. I'm still convinced when they were looking around that area of the Arboretum, there's those 2 ponds I showed you guys in one of my earlier videos. I hope he didn't throw it in a pond. I feel like he held on to it, though. I really do. Unless he freaked out because he realized he lost the sheath, and then maybe that motivated him to hide it. I don't know, but like I said, it feels like they were awake. And when it was talking about DoorDash, it took me right back to this picture. I was going over the crime scene pictures, and there's this picture, and it's a Jack in the Box bag with Xana's name on it in the kitchen. And I think somebody said there was a Jack in the Box in Pullman. And I just wonder, was that her DoorDash? It just made me sad, because I was like, I remember there being like a fast food bag, and then there's a cup that looks like maybe it was like a iced coffee or a shake or something kind of sitting off next to the soap. But I wonder if that was her order that night. So let's go back to yesterday. We watched his flight all the way from Pennsylvania back to Idaho. I don't know why it was so exciting to watch, but it was. This is when he landed, and they're walking him over to the truck that they used to transport him back to the Latah County jail. And this, I was just like, you've got to be freaking kidding me. They put this helmet on him. And like, my kids and my husband in the military wear these helmets, right? And if you're in the military, you'll get my reference. But I was like, it's like they put this guy in full battle rattle to transport him. You know, like they had like body armor on him, and then they give him the hat. And I know it's like an open carry state, and they probably have good reason to be worried about somebody trying to take this guy out. But I can't remember a time if I ever saw them putting a helmet on a guy before they transported him. And then, let's see, what else have I got here? This picture from the airport, and you can see, I don't know if that's a coat with like his vest underneath, or if like the whole coat is maybe some type of bulletproof situation. But he landed at the Pullman Moscow Regional Airport last night at about 6:30 p.m. local time, and it was roughly a 15-hour travel day for him. They made 2 stops for gas. One was in Champaign, Illinois, and I want to say the other one was it Sioux City? I don't know. But they made 2 stops. And then he was taken off the plane wearing what appears to be body armor and then was placed in a helmet prior to being put in the truck for transport to the Latah County Jail. He was officially booked in there, and this is his latest mugshot. Still looking like he doesn't give a damn. I wonder what he's looking like now, though, after that affidavit. I mean, he has to know he's done, right? But he was officially booked in to the Latah County Jail, where he's being held with approximately 22 other inmates. Latah County Sheriff Richard Skiles says that BK will be in a cell by himself and treated like the rest of the inmates, adding that he will only be allowed to speak to his family on the phone. So, let's see. I'll get to that later, because I found just something very weird that with what we have just tried to take in, it'll kind of lighten things up, I think. But when he was in Pennsylvania, this is what he would have been wearing. This is the suicide smock. And you have nothing on underneath it. Like, no underwear, no nothing. And God, I wish he was still wearing one of these. But while in custody in Pennsylvania, he dined on peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, rice, beans, other vegetables, maybe some potatoes, they said, due to his vegan diet. He was initially wearing this lovely suicide smock, no underwear, socks, etc. He wasn't given a blanket or a pillow until he was off suicide watch. He got to shower daily, which was the only time his hands were free. Even in the shower, his legs were still shackled. Allegedly, he was asked why he did it, and he said he didn't do anything. And he was asked why he went to Idaho, and he said, because the shopping is better in Idaho. And the jailers described him as creepy, which I can totally see. So we know they were tracking him from the affidavit on their little trip, and it's been reported that Indiana, the 2 times they were stopped in Indiana, they were asked by the FBI to do that because they wanted to get images of his hands, allegedly. And so this is the picture from the body cam, right? We all remember that. So I kind of zoomed in on his hand and I circled on his wrist area. It looks like there's some sort of like cut, scratch, scab. And then up by his knuckles, they kind of look swollen and there's something there. And then here, it's just so hard to see. But that's a little closer up. But after 7 weeks, if those injuries are still there, they must have been pretty significant. So I'm wondering, nobody that talked so far from WSU has mentioned seeing anything. So I'm wondering if he covered it up somehow, but they would have had to have been pretty significant for them to still be visible on their trip back. So here's a little fun fact that I found today. That's about this movie. It's called 2 Days Back. And BK's sister starred in this movie. It's a gory, low-budget slasher movie where characters were brutally stabbed, slashed, and hacked to death with knives and hatchets. She played Lori in the 2011 film called 2 Days Back. The director, Kevin Boone, a professor of English and Media Studies at Penn State Mont Alto, was shocked that BK was her brother. He explained that he made the film with students and he cast aspiring actress AK after an open audition. He remembers her as a lovely woman who was very nice and he liked her a lot. So here's the picture of her like during the film. But I thought that was kind of random. that of all things, she happened to be in a slasher movie. And then, I don't know if you guys watch Drip Drop on Crime Circus, but I was watching his video today, and he had this video, and he was saying that BK was at the vigil that they had at University of Idaho. And I was like, get out. So I went back and looked at it myself. You see the guy in the blue jacket with his hands in his pockets, just kind of walking there by himself. I took some screenshots. This guy. This guy. And, I mean, he's got his hands in his pockets, but it's cold, so whatever, right? But what got me was the cheeks, because there's something with his cheeks. He's got that kind of sunk in, you know? And in this picture, you can really see it's kind of standing out. Here, I'll show you the video again. He comes in from the bottom left corner. So I don't know. Do you guys think that was him? I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if he was at the vigil. Wouldn't surprise me at all. His next court date is the 12th, I believe, at 10 a.m. their time, I think is what they said. I believe that's right. I don't know. Is that Thursday stuff? I don't know. You probably know better than me. But yeah, so that's all I got today. I think that was quite enough. It's a lot to digest, you know? I mean, I feel like it's a strong case. I feel like he's going down. I don't know how he can get out of it. But, you know, he thinks he's smarter than everybody. I wonder if he thinks he's smarter than his lawyer. I wonder how he's treating his female lawyer. That would be interesting to know. And I wonder what his family thinks now, because, you know, they came out in very strong support of him. And after hearing all of this, I mean, it would be hard to deny. I wonder how they're feeling now. I wonder how they're feeling about all this information that has come out, if they feel like it could be him. And his dad, it was his dad's DNA that caught him. I don't know, it's a mess. And I feel bad for his family as well. I do. I have sympathy for them. I really do. You know, I can't imagine going through something like that. I can't. But mostly my prayers are with the victims' families and the roommates. I mean, survivor's guilt, oh my God. And for Dylan, you know, she's gone over that a million times in her head. He was right there and he just walked by her. So there's the fact of he killed 4 people in my house and he left me alone. There's that. But then he killed 4 people in my home and I got scared and didn't call 911. That girl has got to be going through a lot. And I mean, Bethany as well, just the fact that you're in a house where 4 people got murdered and you're left alone would be a lot. So we need to keep the victims' families and friends in our prayers, the roommates in our prayers. Damn. I don't know what I expected to read today, but not all of that. But I'm glad that they gave us so much, because it does prove that they've really got their case made, that they had their shit together all along, and that being patient with them was worth it. That they made sure they had everything right before they took this guy in, because they didn't want to let him slip through their fingers. So, yeah, Steph, Bobby was like, well, fight or flight. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. But between 4 a.m. and noon, at no point did she calm down enough to call. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can't say because I've never been in her position. But, she called her friends before she called 911. And if she was going to call her friends, why didn't she call them before noon? I mean, I don't know. It's just weird. And I'm not going to beat the girl up for it, but damn. I mean, I'm sure she's beating herself up for it, but, you really just have to be like, why? Like, what the hell? I guarantee you that Steve Gonsalves is like, what the hell? I mean, chances are the murders had already happened by the time she saw him. But like Steph earlier said to me, maybe they could have caught him sooner. I don't know if it would have made a difference or not. And then of course, when she heard him say somebody's in the house or somebody's here, and she heard the crying, had she gone, like when she heard the crying from Xana's room, if she had gone to check on her, chances are Dylan would no longer be with us either. So it's a crazy situation. I don't know how she's dealing with this mentally. I cannot imagine. There's so many different scenarios, but at least they got the guy. I'm super confident he's the guy. I'm confident he is probably the only one, and it sounds like probably Xana and Maddie were the targets, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I still wonder if he got fixated on them maybe at the Mad Greek, because it's the first vegan restaurant that comes up when you Google it. I don't know. These poor kids. And that's what they are. I know they were adults, but to me, they're kids. That just, I don't know how a person could do that. I don't know how he did it. We'll probably never know how, why. But yeah, next week he'll be going back for a status hearing, and we'll definitely follow that. If anything else comes out, the Gonsalves attorney came out and just basically said, that it was a really emotional day and that they weren't going to have a statement, that, they weren't up for answering questions. And Brian Enton, he had gone to the court appearance and he was outside and he saw these people running, and he's like, what are they running? And they were chasing the families with the cameras, the reporters and everybody. And he's like, I'm not going to run down there. He's like, I don't know why they're chasing the families. And I'm like, damn, give them some space, like they don't need the cameras in their face right now. This was probably, next to losing their kids, one of the worst days of their lives. Listening to that and seeing this monster. So, thank you, mods, for being here. Y'all are awesome. I love you. I appreciate it. I need to get your email addresses. You guys need to email me so I have your email addresses. And we can talk more. And we can schedule these things better. But everybody that came and spent an hour and a half of your day with me to talk about the Nothing Burger, I appreciate it. And before you leave, if you could give it a thumbs up, I'd appreciate it. Share out my video with all the hashtags. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. And as always, I will see you all in the next one. Love you too, Steph.